Hello and welcome to the filter bank mode on the Disting EX. This is a bank of 8 stereo parallel filters, resonators or bandpass or multiband filters that you can control the pitch and gain and pan of independently to create some various filtering effects. As I said, stereo input. I've got a stereo input coming from my other Disting Mark IV over here, which is going to be playing some sounds for us. Stereo output out of 1 and 2 going into the mixer so you can hear it. If you want to use just a mono input, you can. There's a parameter to change that, which we'll get to later. So let's just start running through some of the features. As I say, there's it can be resonators or bandpass filters or a multi-band crossover kind of filter, but let's leave it on resonators for now. And we'll skip over that. So this is a mix of the dry signal and the filters. At the moment the dry signal is completely off, but if I turn that up you can hear the sound that we're using to process. But I'm just going to turn that right back down so we can focus on the filter output. Effect gain for the overall mix of the filters. Envelope time, let's come back to those in a moment. Pitch of the filters. The pitch of the filters is set in terms of MIDI note numbers, which is convenient because it gives you an exponential scale, but also because one nice way to control this is actually through MIDI or CV and gate pitch, which lets you play chords or sequence melodies on the resonators that are processing the filters, which I'll come back to in a moment. So let's just skip over the pitches and get up to the gates and actually turn one of these filters on. Let's say number 4, because that's going to be a nice sort of frequency to work with. Turn that on, and immediately we get the filter into the mix. If I go back and just adjust the attack and decay times so you can hear what that's going to do to it. Quite long. Where's our gate? So if you want slightly smoother transitions, turn the attack and decay up and down, or if you want it to be nice and sudden, put those back to default. There we go. So if we turn a few more of them on, so that's the resonator mode. So a resonator is a kind of all-pass peaking filter which emphasizes frequencies rather than cuts them off particularly. All types have the gain or resonance control, which is currently set to the 50% there, so let's play with that. So you get quite extreme sounds at high resonance. And just to compare, let's try the different filter types. So that's resonators. Bandpass, by comparison, sounds like that. Possibly might be easier to hear the difference if we just have a single filter. Right, so that's that one. Number 5. So that's the bandpass filter being swept. If I change it back to resonators instead, it sounds different. Anyway, let's put that back to default for now. And I'm going to turn I'm going to leave it on bandpass, and I'm going to turn the gain, the resonance down a little bit. And we're going to hear some of the other things we can do. So as well as control it with a gate, which of course you can map to a CV input if you want. Each filter output has a gain, so you can adjust the mix of frequencies you want in the output. It's either statically or again under some kind of control. And you can also set up a VCA input for each of the filters. Now, obviously we don't have 8 inputs on the Disting EX, but you can assign multiple filters to use the same input, or you can remote control them by MIDI or something like that. But let's just get an LFO and put something on that for now. So let's say we want to use input 6 for the VCA for input 5, for pitch, for filter 5. There we go. There we go. So now I've just got a sine wave LFO going in here to control the level of that filter. I'll turn that back off for now. Right, now let's turn all the filters on because the remaining things are going to spread. So this basically takes the 8 filters and spreads them out across the stereo field. If I can wind that up. If you're listening in stereo, you can hear now that the stereo image has got wider because the filters are going to different places. So mono, well not mono, but not spread, and then spread. Another way of achieving a similar thing is to use these outputs. Now, the outputs 1 and 2 are the stereo mix. 3 and 4, 3 is just the odd numbered filters, so 1, 3, 5 and 7, and 4 is the even numbered filters, which is 2, 4, 6 and 8. So if I take those out, so now you've got half going to the left and half going to right. So that's very extreme panning, whereas spread does it a little bit more subtly. It's quite a nice effect. And then we've also got an octature LFO, so basically a sine wave LFO that affects all the filter depths, but the phase of the LFO for each filter is 45 degrees out of phase with the last one, so they're all being affected slightly differently. So if I turn up the LFO depth, so basically it's going through and emphasizing each filter slightly differently in turn. There's a LFO rate control as well, so let's make that super slow. Or faster. CV gate control lets you use an input as a pitch CV and a gate to basically send notes and gates to drive the filters to turn the resonators on and off to play notes in a filtery way. So let me turn that on, which will make more sense of that perhaps. Turn it on. So I'm just coming from the Rene here, CV gate, fairly straightforward, playing a little melody. So it's turning a filter on every time it gets a gate, and the resonant frequency of the filter is being set from the CV. So let's give that a little bit more of a decay. There we go, and then we'll give it a bit more resonance. And we'll change it to resonator maybe. So it's still our drum loop coming through as the basic source material, but the pitch being imposed on it comes from the resonators. Which is quite nice. Now, I can also do a similar thing through MIDI, which is quite nice because then you can play chords because you're not limited to a single CV gate input. So I've got a MIDI cable coming in here, same drum loop going through, all the same parameters I had a minute ago, and now if I give it a MIDI note, then I'm going to resonate that. Different note, but now I can play a chord. Like so, which is all good fun. So there, that's resonating under MIDI control. And finally, just to show that it doesn't just work on drum loops, I've got this kind of pad tonal loop going here. And I've got a filtered version of this going now with LFOs and some spread and some different tunings. Which you can hear gives some quite nice motion to the sound. So that is the filter bank algorithm on the Disting EX.